Hi there. In a previous video, we saw how we can build a simple form-based app on DronaHQ. Before we move any further, I would like to show you what our final app might look like. I will show you all a quick preview of this application so we all are on the same page. Heading over to preview. This is the very first screen of this application, which has a navigation menu present on it. The dashboard will show us all the ongoing or upcoming bookings that have been made, and the book conference room will take us to a form where we can submit a new conference room booking. Let's click on that. While this looks similar to the app that we had created, you can observe certain things such as this red asterisk. This is nothing but a required field. That means that without any data input over here, the form will not get submitted. Another thing that you can observe is an error message over here. This is something that we can control under validations for any kind of business logic that you might want to implement on your application. The next thing that we can see is a new control has been added that says end date and has the same data as that of the start date. You can also see that this is a kind of gray in color. That essentially means that this control is read only and you cannot input any data over here. Next up, we have end time. It's again a required field with an error message that says it cannot be less than or equal to the start time. This is something we can again control under validations. What you can also observe is that the room type and participants are no longer text boxes. That means we do not have to manually type in what we want to submit. If we click on it, we'll be presented with a menu to select from a list of options. Let's click on one of it. Similarly, for your select participants, if I click on it, I am again presented with a menu to select from a range of options. So if I click on 1, 2, and 3 and click on done, it will show me that 3 participants have been selected. I can go back and edit it and increase the number. So this control is a multi-select control, while this one over here for select room type is a single select control. That means we cannot have multiple values inputted over here. Another thing that you can observe in this app is when I click on this cross button, this is nothing but a right icon that we had seen previously. I'm going to click over here and see what happens. It takes us to the dashboard, so I can see if there are any ongoing bookings being scheduled, meetings being scheduled. So it's showing me a existing booking that was made for this date. And if I see if there are any upcoming ones. Currently, it's not showing me the data since this is in preview mode. Had it been a published app where I was submitting the information, it would have shown over here. I click on back, go back here again, the screen remains the same. And this is something that we are trying to create with our application. So I'm going to head back over and show you how to get to this app. So picking up where we left off, the very first thing that I want to do in this app is add 2 more screens, one for the menu and the other one for a dashboard. So all that I need to do for that is go over here and click on screens. This is what it will look like for now. I'm going to click on plus, give a new screen name. First would be menu and it will be an empty screen, and click on create. I can see that new screen has been added. I'm going to go back again and add another one for my dashboard. So this would be a presentation screen. I'm going to click on that and type in dashboard. So it will give me some suggestion controls and I can always change that as per my requirements. For now, I will delete them and we'll come back to it and add a new control that we need for our display. I'm going to go back to screens again and I will show you a fun little thing. So right now you can see an H displayed over here. This means this is the home screen or the first screen that your user who is interacting with the application will see. I can go to another screen, click on options and this little arrow down button over here and make this screen my home screen. So the menu screen becomes the first screen that will show when you launch the app, and then maybe we can navigate from there to book conference or to dashboard. Coming back to our book conference screen, we will start by changing certain properties over here, such as mark this field as required. So I'm going to click over here, head over to properties. You can see there are certain toggle buttons over here. I'm going to select required, and I can see that an asterisk has been added next to start date. I'll do the same for start time, end time. Now I'm also going to add a new control that says end date. So I'm going to go back to controls and select a date picker. I'm going to change the label quickly to make this the read-only control. To ensure that the date that is going inside this control is the same as the start date, I'm going to show you how we can do that using formulas. So you can bind data to a certain control in 4 ways. We have the option to bind from static data, that is a fixed data. We can bind data from a sheet. It will do like a lookup from our existing sheet, how we do it on Excel. A lookup formula we'll be entering over here. Another option is to do from controls. That is, you refer the data from an existing control in that same screen. And the last option is using a formula. For this control, I will be using control bind data from controls. So I'll click on controls and scroll down and select start date. And I can see that when I hover over this icon, I can see the formula that has been entered for this control. The next few controls that I will be working on is a room type and participants. I'm going to go ahead and delete them and add new controls. I'll head back over to my control section and look for drop down. So we have one, and the other one is going to be a multi-select to select the number of participants. I'm going to click on drop down and change the label to room type, and I'm going to click on multi-select and change the label to participants. Next, I will show you how we can do bind data from static data. So I'm going to change the options over here. Just quickly change that. And I have it there. I'm going to select one as a default select and click on save. If I click on, you can see that it says conference room by default, but if I click over here, I can go back and change my selection. Right now it's not showing me any data under the participants, so we're going to go back and add data over there, bind data from sheet. So all that you need to do for that is click on formula again, click on sheets, enter the name of the sheet that you want to fetch data from. I have a sheet called user list. I'm going to click on that. Next thing that you need to select is which column name your data is going to come from. So in my case, I'm going to select name and click on save. I will save it first. Clicking on preview. And if I go back here and click on participants, I can see a list. I'm gonna try and select a few of them. Okay, and click on done. and it's showing me there the way it was in our first app that we saw. Uh, you can see that these are gray, and in that app it was purple in color. So we're going to change the color as well, and to do that we're going to head back, click on this control over here, and change the themes under properties. So all that you need to do is click on this icon there and select the color theme. And that is done. And in this one, I'm going to change the by default because we don't want everybody to just select conference room 1. So this is how this is also how you can uh, manipulate the static data that is binded to a control. I'm just going to select this and delete it. Click on save and validate, and it is done. Click on this cross button. Now we also saw some error messages that were being displayed under your under the controls. So to do that, we need to click on this icon over here that says validation. So this is where you control any kind of business logic. So I'm going to click on start date and enter my first condition. I'm going to click on add one. So the start date should be always less than or equal to our end date. For that we have a before or equal option. So I'm going to select that field, and the second value would be end date. We're going to write down our error message that says start date cannot be after your end date, and click on save. Similarly, we can add for start time, end date, that these controls cannot have, say, more than 4 participants. We can control that as well if that is a use case in your organization. So I will change the start time first. Click over here, add one. The start time should be before your end time. So that is what we are going to select. I'm going to click on this arrow button and select before, failed, and this will be end time. Message again, start time cannot be after the end time, and click on save. Similarly, we will add for end time. It has to be after the start time. Save again. The end date in our scenario has been a read-only control, so the user cannot really change the data over there, so I need not add a validation. And I'm going to click on this cross button over here because I've added all the validations that I required. And if I do a preview again, you can see the error messages. I can see that it's matching the condition that I had specified for start date, that it cannot be after the end date. So that has been taken care of. You can see that this field is pre-populated with the date as the start date. If I change that, it's going to reflect in the end date as well. Perfect. You can see that in start time, it is giving me an error message that the start time cannot be after the end time. I will change that. And both the error messages are gone. Room type again I will select. But same for participants. We can see that the theme that I had selected for this control property has changed. Click on submit. Next thing, I'm going to show you how we can change this message over here. I'm going to click on OK and head back to the builder. For that, I'm going to click on submit. Head over to properties again, and here you can see that the message can be changed. So I'm going to change that. Type in booking has been submitted and leave it at that. Now one more thing that you need to change in this app is that every control type has to be mapped to the same data type or a column type in your sheet. So in the sheet that we created the last time, we had used text data type, which now needs to be changed to a single select and a multi-select. That can be done very easily. We are going to head back to our sheet and add two more columns. First one would be room, and the second one would be participants. You can see it's giving me an error message that the same name already exists, so I will just change it and we will take care of that in a while. I'm going to click here and select single select, and for this one we're going to select, and I'm going to click on add columns. Two new columns have been added. This one is single select, this one is multi select. Now these two are no longer required. You can simply select it, copy it, and paste it over here because I don't want to lose the data. You can see that it has broken down these three from a single select, from a single text body to three individual data elements. And I no longer require these columns. In my case, I'm going to delete them. However, if you don't want to delete them, you can simply hide the column or reorder them and move them to a more further side. Clicking over here and just changing the order. Clicking here, moving them further. I'm going to be deleting them now. And there it is. In this sheet, you can see that it has now changed the color as well. So it gives you a better visibility of your data. The use case that I'm trying to build is that a user will submit a request and that request needs approval of the manager or say the admin. So to control that, I am going to add one more column in this sheet and I will call it status. So it would be pending, approved and rejected. I'll just call it status for now. And it would be text. Click on add column. And I can see that it has been added. Now I'll head back to my app. Once I'm back to my app, I'm going to make some changes to the workflow as well. Because we have made changes to the column, we need to map our UI elements again to the new columns. And we'll be doing that under update sheet. Heading back to update sheet, I'm going to click on next. And you can see that these new columns have been added with no formula reflecting in this box. So we're going to enter the formula again. We'll enter the name of the control, that was room type. For this we have participants. And finally, we're going to leave this empty as there is something we'll be controlling in the next workflow item. I'm going to click on done. And the next thing that I will add is a approval task. I'll click on plus icon and click on approval. Give it a task name. We need the manager's approval. And click on next. Coming over here, we can see that there are various options that we can select to decide who the request for approval is going to get to. And we have a couple more. For this one, I'm going to select directly to an individual user, which would be user 1. You can control the list that shows over here in the users in your account. We'll be covering that in another video. And I'm just going to click on done for this one. So you can see there are two branches that have been added in case the approval has been rejected or accepted. For the case of reject, we'll have to again update our records. In the conference room sheet, we need to show the status as rejected. So we're going to control that over here. I'll click on this plus icon and click on Update Sheet. We'll be marking that request as rejected. Click on Next. I'm going to select the name of the sheet here again, Conference Room, and we need to update our record, which would be the last match, and we'll be selecting which column gets updated. So over here, I'll select the column name, which would be status, and the data getting inside it would be rejected. And I'm going to click on Done. The same process I'm going to repeat for the request if it is being approved. I'm going to click on this, then Update Sheet. We'll be marking approved. Click on Next. Same process we're going to follow. Click on the sheet where to update it. Update record last. Selecting our column and the data that we save under it. And click on Done. I'm done with my workflow. I'm going to click on this cross button over here. Another thing that we will add on the screen is icons on the top header. So I'm going to click on the header. Under Properties, I'm going to click on left icon. We will enable it. This will allow us to control what action the icon will take. So I'm going to click on Actions over here and make it navigate to the menu screen. I've selected no validation. Had I selected validation, we'll see a pop-up message where the app will ask us whether or not we want to abandon the data that we had just entered. So I'm going to leave it as is. The next screen that I'll be working on is the dashboard screen. We're going to change the header, remove the icons that we do not require. I'm going to disable the right one. And for the left one, I'm going to select the navigate option. We will be navigating to our main menu. We're going to change the subheading and heading as well. This one needs no changes. I'm going to change the background color also. Clicking on that, color has been changed. Done. Over here, I want to give the user a list of all the bookings that have been made for the existing date or upcoming days. To start off with that, I will let the user select which day he wants to check the bookings for. So I'm going to head back over to Controls, and I will be looking for this control called Select Path. There it is. I'm going to change the data that is being displayed and the static data option. First one will be ongoing. Next will be upcoming. And we don't require the remaining ones, so I'm going to delete them. I also don't need to show this label, so I'm going to head over here and hide it. You can see that it has been given a unique name that we can use to refer to this control in other rules and validations or controls and other formulas. I will change the color of this control as well to a different theme. And head back to add my screen. Now the next thing that I want to add, it's actually a little trick of mine. I'm going to add another date picker. Going from here. And we are going to keep this hidden. It's going to be read only. And what we will use this for is to find out today's date. You can see it's already populated with today's date formula. This will come in handy when we are trying to find out ongoing bookings. If you want to select ongoing and you want to see the bookings that have been made for this day, by only selecting this button over here, the app will not understand which day you're referring to. It needs to know the value that you want to compare with, which is what we'll be using this for, which you will see shortly. Next control that I will add is a visual control. So I'm going to head back over to Controls and click on this button, Visual over here. Scroll down and add this control called List. This one I'm going to use for all ongoing book meetings. We know we don't need to show the label, so I'm going to hide it. And this will need a formula to tell it where to get the data from. And for that, I'm going to click on this button over here. There, click on formula. Now I don't need to manually type in the name of the sheet, where to look the data from, and what to compare it with. I can do that with the wizard. So for that, I'm going to click on get data from sheets. Over here, I'm going to select which sheet to get the data from. So that would be conference room. Next item that I can select is which all columns to get the data from. So over there, I'm going to select the start date. Then I want to see which conference room it is, at what time it would be starting, the end date, and finally the participants. We don't need the date as of now to show in this. The next filter that we will be using is that first, the status of this conference room is approved. So we will compare its value. One more condition that we can add is that only today's date's bookings or meetings are being displayed. So for that, I'm going to select the start date, compare it with the control that we had added on this screen. You can see it over here, date picker, and we'll be sorting it in ascending order by the start time. With this, I'm going to click on insert, and I can see that the formula is here without me manually having to type that in. And click on this cross button over here. I'm going to repeat this process again for upcoming scenarios. As you saw in this list, I'm only trying to show today's day's bookings. So I'm going to repeat the process. I'll click on this icon over here to duplicate the field. And we can see another list has been added. I'll click on formulas again, go back to sheets and tweak the formula over here. A condition for the status of the request remains. It should be approved. So I'm going to click on status equal to approved, and the start date is greater than today's date, which we can again look up from the new control that we have added on the screen. So we'll select start date over here and look for greater than, there it is. And over here I'm going to look for the control that is date picker, and again we'll be sorting it in ascending order. The start time, I'm going to click on insert. You can see the formula has been moved over here. I'll click on save and validate, and it is done. I'm going to click on this cross button over here. Now one more thing that we can do is change the name of this list so there is less confusion later on. I'm going to call it upcoming meetings. And now what we will do is we will ensure that when the user is selecting ongoing, he only sees this list. And if he is selecting upcoming, he only sees the second one and not this one. We can achieve that using rules over here. I'm going to click on this button. And then I will click on this button that says add new rule. Here we can specify which control we want to hide and show and what the condition would be. So over here I will click on select bar. It should be equal to the value ongoing. And if condition is met, in that scenario we will only show the first list and hide the second one. If the condition is false, that is if the user has selected upcoming meetings, in that scenario we are going to hide the first list and show the second one. And that is done. I'm going to click on save over here and the cross button. I will add one more action button to let the user go from this screen and book a new conference room, and that is easy. I'm going to go back to controls again. Under the form button, I'm going to click on action, and I can see that a new button has been created. Now if I click on this button over here, I can see a button click action that I can select. I'm going to click on this again. Now there is a list, and we need to navigate from here to screen number 1, that was book conference room. So I will select that. We'll also change the color over here, and what the text says on this button, it should say book conference room, and that is done. This page is ready. We don't need a workflow in this scenario as there is no actual data being submitted. You can see when I refreshed it, it changed the screen that we were looking at. It took me to the home screen, and that is alright, as the next screen that we'll be working on is this one. There is already a control that was added by default, that is a spacer control, to add some extra space over your before you start adding controls. So I will delete it as I do not require it. I am going to go to visuals, and I'm going to select the navigation menu control, as that is what we are trying to achieve. This is by default what you get from this control. We can go ahead and change it very easily. I'm going to click on this cross here, head back to properties. If I scroll a little further, you can see something that says item list. So we can change the item labels. The first one would be a dashboard, and the second one would be conference room book. You can also delete the labels as I do not require them. Just click on this bin, remove option. That one's gone. Exit the app as well. And that one's done as well. Now what you can also change over here is which page or which screen this will be taking you to. For that, I'm going to click on this button, and it's going to give me a list of screens that we have in this app. The first one I will select dashboard, and for the next one I will select book conference room. I also want to change this header over here. Just going to click on it, click on header, remove the subheading, and we'll add a new main heading. This is your conference room booking app. I can also add icons. So the left one I want to use to exit the app. That can be controlled under actions. I'm going to click on this and select exit app. The right one I do not require, so I'm just going to click on this disable icon button. You can change the background color of this header by clicking over here, clicking on it and selecting the theme. Menu looks alright. For conference room, you can see the navigation URL says screen 1, that is its default title. We'll take a quick preview of this app before we publish it, so I'm going to click on this. I will just fill in some data in this form, such as date, I will take a look at the dashboard also. It won't show me any data as the status of the request is not approved yet. I'm going to head back. I'm going to go ahead and publish this application with some release notes. We can write whatever we have changed in this app, such as new screens have been added, control properties were changed, workflow, rules, and validations were also added. So it would be easier for us to understand if you look at this version what were the changes compared to the previous or a version in the future. Go and click on publish. Once that is done, what you can also look at is over here the version has changed. If I click on this arrow button, I can see the previous version that we had rolled out. You can also see at what time it was rolled out. And these are the release notes. So this makes it easy for us to look back at what all changes we have been making to our app, and if we want to roll back to a previous version, say I'm not happy with all the changes that I've made, or there is some new functionality or a new way to go ahead with this app, I'm going to roll back to a previous version, and that will undo all these changes that I have made. So I'm heading back. Now I'm going to go to the web app and see how things are looking over there. Here I have my web app. I'm going to scroll and look for the application where it is. So I have the web app open over here. I'm going to go to the dashboard. There is no ongoing or upcoming ones. So I'm going to book the conference room, submit some data. Select the room type, the participants, and click on submit. Now for this application, I have marked myself as the receiver for the approval request. So I'm also going to show you that. I'll go back to my web app, the main dashboard. I'm going to refresh it once. And over here, I'll click on this icon, which is our status app. And this is not just for one app, it's for all the apps that you have in your container app. You'll be getting the notifications and updates from all of them in one single status app. So I'm going to click over here. And you can see that this new task has been sent to me for approval or rejection. You can also see, since I was the initiator, if I click on initiated by me, I can see that this request was sent out by me. Heading back to assigned, I'm going to click on approve. I can specify a reason as well. Click on approve. And go back to initiated and check, and it says completed. Perfect. So if I head back to my sheet and see if the data got transferred there, and there it is. I can see that a conference room was added, the status being approved. Perfect. I can again head back to my application and see if the data shows in the dashboard. We'll do that. I'm going to click on conference room book again, and I'll head over to the dashboard. We don't have any ongoing meetings, but if I click on upcoming, I can see that this meeting is scheduled in conference room number 2 at this time. I can manually click on this and change the data. So one more thing that you can do over here is if I click on this button over here, I can change the data. So right now it is reading from the existing row. It only knows one value, so I can change it to what we were trying to do. And click on save. Now if I click over here, I can manually change it as well. Since I have the admin view, I can control who all users can access the sheet as well. I'll just change it to another one. Let's say Control 6. There it is. But following the steps of building this app the way we created the screens, we created a sheet for it, we added UI controls, we changed their properties, rules and validations, workflows. For the right combination of the UI builder, workflows, and the database, that is your front end, workflows, and the back end, you can achieve any kind of a use case that you're trying to build, be it a sales app or for the HR or for the admin, for your field force, if you're trying to create a dashboard and so on. Any kind of use case that you're trying to achieve. With the right combination and the right logic, you can achieve that on this platform without having to worry about writing a code for it or depending on anybody else. And you will be able to create it.